Hey there, my name is Michaela and this is my channel, Michaela's Afraid. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if that's what I'm gonna stick with, so that's why I say it with a question mark at the end. This is a new channel. I've never done YouTube before. This is gonna be my first video. Hopefully it's not gonna be my last video. And obviously I've never done a movie review before, so just bear with me. But I do have a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions, so give it a chance. So today I'm going to be reviewing The Boogeyman. Directed by Rob Savage, The Boogeyman follows a father, Will, and his two daughters, Sadie and Sawyer, who are grieving the loss of their wife/mother. After a visit from an unexpected guest, a bloodthirsty supernatural entity is left behind. So I was relatively excited when I first saw the first trailer for this movie. The whole red light blinking in and out was really intriguing for me personally. That's a fun thing that I really enjoy in horror movies when it's done correctly. And it looked like it was gonna be scary. During the Chainsaw Awards, David Dastmalchian, who plays Lester in Boogeyman, was one of the hosts of the show. So they played a little clip from the movie. That didn't really do much for me. It just kind of helped me understand what kind of story it was gonna be. It didn't make me more excited or anything. It just wasn't special. And then I saw a Stephen King tweet, quote, "This is some scary shit." In reference to The Boogeyman. So that made me a little more excited. I was a little more hopeful that this was actually going to be a decently scary movie. And then actually, right before I saw the movie, not right before, but like a day or two before, there was a newer ad for it on YouTube. And it was one of the more Paranormal Activity era kind of ads where they shoot a whole movie theater's reaction to the movie and they all act like they're really, really scared. Which I actually think is fun. A lot of the times it's misleading, like it was for The Black Phone. That was very disappointing. But still, even though I know it's not very trustworthy, it still got me a little bit more excited to see the movie. I did see it an entire week prior to filming this video, so hopefully I don't get anything wrong, but I don't think I'm going to. Also, this is not going to be a spoiler-free review. I'm not going to do a little spoiler-free section. It's going to be all spoilers. I'm gonna get very specific on a lot of things. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want it spoiled for you, I recommend clicking off, but come back after you watch it. The movie had some positive aspects and I did overall enjoy watching it, but it also had a lot of flaws and it just left a lot to be desired. I will highlight some of the things that I did like, but there's also going to be much more criticism in this video. So the intro scene was fun. I thought it was a nice little disturbing way to start the movie. We get a little background into Lester's family before he's even introduced, so that's kind of cool. I was excited for what the rest of the movie was going to offer in terms of scares and maybe pushing the limits a little bit, since right away we're murdering a baby. It's off screen, but still, you see the baby blood splatter on the family photo. It's a little rough. So the father of the movie, Will, is a therapist and he works from home. When he's first introduced, he's in a session with a client and says that they need to wrap it up because he has to take his kids to school. Now this immediately made me cock my head to the side, because what time are you starting your therapy appointments? Is it normal for therapists to see their patients this early in the morning? Like, this is before school. School usually starts at like 8 and a therapy session's usually about an hour long. So this had to have started at like 6:30? And maybe this is normal? My dog. Maybe that's normal and some people get their therapy in before their 9 to 5. But it just seems unrealistic to me. I don't know, I could be wrong. I didn't know she was gonna do this. Okay, I'm just gonna leave her be. And from here on is when I started to notice that the writing is kind of bad. At the older sister Sadie's school, we meet her best friend, presumably, and then just 3 other girls who are like really fucking mean and completely apathetic for like no reason. They just, I don't know, they just like to be mean. And honestly, it's been a week. I don't really remember how it happened, but somehow the blonde girl of the 3, who's like basically like the leader of the pack. She somehow makes her spill a month-old paper lunch bag from a month ago when her mom first died. I don't know why I said when she first died. She only died one time. She makes it spill all over Sadie, and it gets all over her mom's dress that she wore to school. She's obviously distraught, pissed off that her dress is ruined and embarrassed, so she just walks home. I was a little confused at first by this group of mean girls because I didn't understand why they were there. They didn't act like they were friends with Sadie, obviously, and they didn't really even act like they were friends with Sadie's best friend. The best friend was just like kind of telling them to lay off, but wasn't really doing much about it at all. But the girls were also kind of acting like fake friends. I don't know. It was weird. I couldn't really read the situation well. But later on, we do realize that Sadie's best friend is friends with these three girls. So here we've got the overused, unrealistic high school mean girl trope. It's in so many movies, and sometimes it's done well, but here the writing was just not good. It was actually pretty bad. There definitely are mean girls at, I don't know, probably every high school, but it's almost always way more subtle than this. Talking behind your back, giving fake compliments, which actually the blonde character does do to Sadie in regards to her dress, but that's really it. The rest of it is way too overt. This is honestly more middle school behavior than anything. It really reminds me of like a really cringy teen drama. Doesn't feel natural. So I also had issues with the very next scene after this. So Lester Billings walks into Will's office/house completely unannounced, uninvited. They end up starting a session and Lester explains that an entity was the cause of his children's death. Will is obviously concerned for Lester's well-being and the people around him, so he steps out and discreetly calls the police. And at this point, unbeknownst to Will, Sadie is home. And I actually really like the shot where we see Lester going upstairs and then the camera slowly centers in on Sadie's backpack hanging on the railing. Super simple little shot, but a really good way to start building tension. Now this might be nitpicky, but I do not understand why Will left Lester alone for so long. Like, it was a long time. I mean, he's upstairs for what felt like over 5 minutes, which I guess saying it out loud, it doesn't sound like that long, but it feels like a long time. It's a long time. When we see Will in the kitchen on the phone with the 911 operator, he's basically already said everything that he needs to say to them. And then that is when Lester goes upstairs. So I don't know what he was doing that entire time that Lester was upstairs. And I get that he didn't know that his kid was home, but regardless, it just doesn't seem like a good idea to leave a random, unstable stranger unattended in your house for so long. Another thing I thought about after watching this movie was, why did Lester go upstairs? Unless I'm missing something or I'm misremembering, I don't remember there being any indication that the entity lured him upstairs or anything like that. So he just went up there. I mean, maybe that's supposed to be implied, but that's not what I got from it. Just a weird choice to not outright give him a reason to be wandering through the house. It didn't make much sense to me. A line from this movie that really punched me in the gut was when Sawyer, the little sister, was on her bus home from school, and they get to her house and there's a bunch of cop cars outside, and I think the ambulance is taking out a body in a body bag, and one of her classmates says, "Your dad's not dead too, is he?" Great line. But I would have loved to see more of a reaction from her here. She was pretty deadpan. She looked mildly concerned, which doesn't feel right for a kid that just lost her mother. I don't know. I know that everybody processes things differently. Some people just get shocked with fear and don't show much emotion. But I don't know. For a kid like this, it was a little weird. Actually, a big issue I had throughout the entire movie was Sawyer's lack of emotional reaction. And again, I get that some kids are less expressive than other kids. Some people, deal with things in different ways, but this goes beyond that. Her character is supposed to be terrified of the dark. Like really, really scared to the point where she can't sleep unless she has like 2 power strips full of nightlights plugged in and a very bright moonlight in her face. Yet for some reason, every single time something scary happens, she not only just looks mildly uncomfortable, she also goes to investigate everything herself and never once just runs to her dad or her sister or even just calls out for them. I was a somewhat paranoid child, you know, I had some issues with being scared at night. And I can tell you that if I saw the literal boogeyman run from my closet underneath my bed, never in a million years would I ever stick my head under and try to see it myself. No way. And she continues this even after she's fully convinced that she's been seeing a monster. She literally pees herself in her therapy session out of fear because she saw it. But the same night, I'm pretty sure it was the same night, she literally follows it out of her room into the hallway. And even in that last Sawyer-focused scene where she gets thrown into the TV, she just does not react accordingly. She doesn't try running upstairs where her sister and dad are and the lights are on. She doesn't try calling for them. And like in this scenario, I get it a little bit more because maybe she doesn't want to draw attention to herself because she's scared of it, you know, she wants to just hide. But she was also trying to find it and like see it. She was using the light from the TV screen to try and see the boogeyman. And here's another issue. Why did she have the lights off? She has been being terrorized by the boogeyman. And even before that, she was afraid of the dark. You don't need to play video games in the dark. You can have the lights on. She would not have been comfortable with that. That doesn't make sense. I do want to point out that there is a possibility that I'm misremembering this and the lights were on and they like blew out or something. If that's the case, sorry. I just don't remember that happening. Now, moving on to the therapy scene, the one from the trailer, I was really excited to see what they were going to do with it. But it was disappointing. It wasn't awful or anything. Like seeing the creature in the flashes of light was, you know, pretty creepy, but they didn't push it far enough. I'm a big fan of the lights on, lights off type of scare in horror movies, where every time the light switches, you see the, you know, the creepy thing in like a different position or a different place, or it's like closer to you. That's really fun to me. And they absolutely could have executed this better and made it more unexpected and scarier for the audience. But I guess it did what it was supposed to. It was a simple, suspenseful little scare. It was fine, but yeah, it was underwhelming. I did really like the tooth pulling scene. Tooth pulling in the first place is grody. So that aspect alone already made me a little uncomfortable. But the intense slamming of the door was really effective for me. I did think it was weird though that neither of them acknowledged that Sadie was obviously not the person that closed the door, or not the one that closed the door. But Sawyer's obviously freaking out. She just got her tooth ripped out super unexpectedly. And I want to say that this is probably the most reaction we get out of Sawyer throughout the entire movie. So I think that's also part of why I liked this. So going back to the Mean Girls, we're at their house for a sleepover now, and the writing, again, is so corny. And why did her best friend invite them when they've been nothing but mean to her the entire time? They're obviously just gonna be mean to her when they get there. It should have just been the two of them. It didn't make sense. If the girls had pretended that they wanted to go so that they could, I don't know, have fun making fun of Sadie or something, then the whole thing would have been a lot more justified. When Sawyer is throwing up and pulls out the string with the tooth on the end of it from her throat, it might be overdone. It is overdone, but I personally love it when a character pulls out something weird and creepy from their body. And as corny as the writing was, Sophie Thatcher's performance as Sadie really made the sleepover scene so much better. Her really good emotional acting really amped up the anxiety factor. She's great throughout the whole movie. Like, she makes the movie more enjoyable, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to get over the bad writing. Another scene I want to talk about is when Sadie goes into the Billings house and Lester's wife uses her as bait to try and kill the boogeyman. Lester's wife has a whole Home Alone type trap set up. There's tripwire, and when the boogeyman trips over it, it triggers some weapons. I don't know if I can say that word on YouTube. I don't know, so I'm just not going to. But anyway, it shoots the boogeyman until it's on the floor and looks like it's dead. And here comes the classic character walks up to the murderer slash monster, turns their back to it, is super confident and cocky, and then the monster or murderer gets up and murders them. It's an overused trope for sure, but I will let it slide this time because the boogeyman literally rips this woman in half. And that is actually something that I really, really want more of in horror, is when something is just so big and strong that they literally just like tear somebody apart. It was great, but this was the only gore that we see in the entire movie, really. And a movie doesn't need to be gruesome to be scary. I get that. I totally agree with that. But from the beginning scene of the movie, I just thought we were gonna get a little more of that, you know? Baby murder in the beginning, and then not only one person dies, Lester dies too, but he dies off camera. You don't see a lot. The final act is where we finally get to see the boogeyman close up and in full detail, and I think he looks great. Sometimes in horror, when they show too much of the demon or monster or entity, whatever, it ends up not being as scary and usually looks a little cheesy. That didn't happen here. It looked great. The tongue with hands and then the weird face in his mouth was so weird. It was so fun. Definitely like a nightmare creature. Now in this story, we don't really get any background for the boogeyman. There's nobody like researching similar instances, trying to get to the bottom of it, or even like questioning what it is or why it eats kids. And I actually liked that about this. I don't think that every horror movie needs to explain the origin or motivation of the antagonist. Sometimes there's just gonna be a scary paranormal child eater, and you're not gonna know anything about it. And that's okay. So the very end of this movie is basically an invitation for a sequel. I'm sure they're gonna make another one. They're making sequels to every new horror movie that comes out now, even when it's just so unnecessary. Nobody wanted it, but it works for this. This is fine. All three of them survived, so maybe we'll see them have to go through this all over again. Maybe it'll follow an entirely different family. No idea. We'll see. Now I have one last complaint, and it feels like a big one to me. Sawyer has a cell phone, right? All modern cell phones have flashlights. At no point was her phone broken or dead or just not working. So why, at no point after she learned that it can't go into the light, did she not think to use the flashlight on her cell phone? She didn't even try. She walked into that house that had no lights on and didn't think to pull out her phone and turn on the flashlight? She absolutely would have tried to use her flashlight. Sometimes I use mine just to find my way to the bathroom at night. And the bathroom's like right outside my bedroom door. That bothers me so bad. If they would have like given a reason why she couldn't use her phone flashlight, if like the entity somehow like messed with it and made it, not work, or it like drained her phone battery, then that would be cool, that would be good. But there's just no reason. There's no reason why she wouldn't do that. She would totally do that. Anyway, I don't know if it's really that big of a deal. It really bothered me though. So yeah, that's the end of the movie. I also want to say I didn't realize until after I saw the movie that Rob Savage directed it. I probably heard his name mentioned with the movie, but I'm bad with names and I didn't look anything up beforehand. So Rob Savage was the director for the movies Host and Dashcam, both of which I really, really liked. Realizing that he directed this movie actually makes the movie even more disappointing for me, because those movies I mentioned are so unique and creative and effective, and this one is just so generic. It absolutely just felt like a generic blockbuster horror. You know, the kind that attract teenagers that aren't like into horror, people that aren't into horror, you know, to come to the theater and like get scared. There wasn't a lot that was special about it. But like, again, I actually did enjoy this movie. I know it sounds like I hated this movie, but I had a really fun time watching it. But unfortunately, there were just a ton of issues and an overall lack of creativity. Hopefully next time we see a Rob Savage film, he will step it up a little bit and then bring some of that creativity back that he had in those other two movies. I mean, people loved Host, and the Dashcam was controversial, but I view it as satirical, and I really, really like it. So that's it. That's my review for, I almost said the Babadook, the Boogeyman. I hope anyone that watched this enjoyed it. I know this is maybe gonna get 2 views, and one of those views is gonna be from me watching it over again, criticizing myself. But if you did watch this video, thank you for watching it. I hope that something that I said was interesting or, I don't know, worthwhile. And if you enjoyed the video, you could give it a little like. If you didn't like the video, please don't dislike it. Just click off. I'm kidding, do whatever you want. But I am planning on uploading more videos. This is just something that I kind of want to start doing. If you found this video interesting at all, if you liked anything that I had to say, if you would maybe be interested in seeing more from me, let me know. Give me a little comment maybe. You don't have to, but I mean, obviously, I'm not forcing you to do anything. I don't have the power to do that. I wouldn't want to anyway. But if you want to, please do it. It would be really cool to see what people think. And if you agree or disagree with anything that I said, if you feel that there was stuff that I left out that I should have criticized or brought up, or stuff that you actually really liked, you should also comment that. I want to know what other people think. All right, thanks again for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Bye.